Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mike's Movie Podcast featuring Evan with special guest Adam. Today, we are discussing three movies, similar to what we did last time. The three movies that we are going to discuss are Red One, Gummo, and Powder. And I think for the discussion, we should begin by discussing Red One. Before we do, Adam, how's it going?
Great. I had a great time. I'm having the same problem I always have when we don't do this immediately after I watch the movies, where me and Mike watched these three movies a week ago. Evan watched them last night, living my ideal experience. In the week since me and Mike have watched these movies, I've gone through multiple cycles of new obsessions. Specifically, I got back into cyclically watching Oliver Stone's JFK, getting really into JFK stuff. And then I got over that. And on Thanksgiving, I did an impromptu double feature of Benjamin Button and rewatching Inland Empire. And I got so into Inland Empire, I've watched it twice since then. And then the hour and a half of deleted scenes. So what I really is on my mind is JFK and Inland Empire with the side of Benjamin Button. But I'm going to do my best to time travel back in time and get back into this classic trio that the fans have been clamoring for.
Well, I think what we can do is we can get back into the mindset of Red One, and we can start, Evan, what theater did you see Red One in? Adam, what theater did you watch it?
I gotta look it up. I think I know what I gotta pick.
I went to the Regal Meridian downtown for Red One.
I think I also saw it there, but I
gotta check. I pretty much see all my movies at the same place at the Alamo Draft House in Raleigh. And I become attached to that because I really like the first 30 minutes of content that they curate for the pre-show. Like for Red One, they just showed a bunch of old vintage Christmas crap. But sometimes it's really good stuff, like interviews with the actors or old commercials that haven't been in.
Yes.
I'm already stressing about which of the three movies, Red One, Gummo, or Powder, I'm going to put as the thumbnail for our YouTube video.
Oh, come on. I mean, there's a clear answer for me.
Well, there's a clear answer in a lot of ways. Like, these three movies are so deeply different every way. They represent the three and the pieces of the triangle, really. I mean, like, they are emblematic.
It's definitely a triangle where one point is farther away than the other two. For sure, it's
well, realistically, I thought if I had to sum this up in like one sentence, one of them is really good, and then the two are, one of them is really bad, and one of them is laughably bad. And you can decide, you can try to pick which ones I'm talking about. I also think that each of the...
I love all three equally as I would my own children, and I will not do a Sophie's Choice and malign any.
I already thought about whose personality maps onto which movies of the three of us.
Oh, please, by all means, let's get started.
So without going into detail, and we can unpack this over the course of the next several hours, I thought that I was Powder.
Sure, I would agree.
And that Mike was Red One, and that Adam was
Gummo.
Mo ho ho, exactly, yeah. Well, and also spilled a bit. I'll share that I'm not proud of this, but Powder is the one I know the best because I rented it frequently unironically. I liked it. In the 90s, that passed as like a reasonable film.
We were talking about that when we watched it. We were like, wow, this really just was a thing that happened. And people were like, okay, let's check out Powder.
Yeah.
I remember with Powder is in the 90s watching previews for it. I remember that my initial impression is like, oh, Powder, like this is a very like profound film. Now I'd never actually seen it until like last week when I watched it, but I just remember just like from seeing the previews and just like kind of knowing, and I like know like particularly the scene with the deer in my mind was like there was something that was at the time remembering like that was like particularly like profound. And from watching the movie, I realized that the movie itself is not particularly profound. But
I
do remember.
Is you're right that it is. There are a few scenes. The ending deer scene where the wife dying. There are scattered throughout scenes that are iconic, weepy, emotionally sweeping, whatever scenes. But then in between, there's all the other shit that isn't like that at all. Which is why I love it. I love a good, broken,
Right.
confusing movie.
Exactly. It is a good broken movie. And I think, in my opinion, in that sense, very highly watchable. Red One, I could barely sit through. I went to the
I
theater.
don't get it. I've had this conversation with Nick when Nutcracker and the Four Realms came out, and I told him, like, yeah, I'm gonna go see that retarded Nutcracker movie. And he was like, why? And I was like, what do you mean why? Look at it. It looks like a fucking ridiculous mess. It's gonna be, and like Red One is better than that. Because the thing is, Red One, my only problem with Red One is the casting. The Rock has been cooked since Pain and Gain. Chris, whatever his name, is a fucking worthless. The government is making him be in movies. He's horrible. But if you just take them out of it, I think Red One is a funny on purpose movie that is funny to me.
I guess I can see where you're coming from. I just found it boring. Like, compared to something like Gummo, when I sat down and watched Gummo, I was obsessed. Like, I couldn't get enough. Like, I wanted to just bathe in that fucking movie. Everything about it I liked. And Red One was just.
Seen it. I was a little surprised that Mike hadn't seen it, but you, just because I know that Nick's big into it, I was like, how did you not get subjected to it?
It's like I said, Nick's been talking about it for decades. I just never pulled the trigger. No particular reason. I just didn't. I've
So
always
if you haven't seen that, I'm very curious, what other Harmony Korine movies have you seen?
well, I don't know what all he's directed, but I have a story about how when I was a preteen, I got to hang out with some other preteens and early teens and watch Kids at my 13th birthday party. And there were girls at the party, and we were all watching them, suck the Kool-Aid off the tampon. And that was a big thing.
So Kids you've seen. Spring Breakers, the next big one. Never seen Spring Breakers? If you haven't seen that, then that probably would be it. Unless you're like Beach Bum with McConaughey recently. That's the most recent one. Well,
I haven't seen any of that shit.
Yeah,
I know who Harmony Korine is. I know about his work, whatever, but like I just haven't done the work. So
yeah, Kids is the only other one that I had seen. And Evan, I had your share. I think I had your experience with Gummo as well, where I found that movie to be hypnotic, and I was completely like sucked into it from watching that picture.
And that was our warm up for Powder.
Yes.
We were like, we did Gummo straight into Powder. And when I put the Powder DVD in, for some reason, it defaulted to the French language option. So the title in French is like, Les Enfants de Tonier. And they're in the hospital like, oh, she was a girl.
It's so fucking stupid and broken. It's just delicious.
So,
I mean, and I don't know how I didn't see it as a 12, 13-year-old, but like it's a very
broken movie.
It's just a goofy, silly goofball of a movie. Also, it's like the essence of Jeff Goldblum.
Sure, yeah, it is Goldblumiest.
That's the most Goldblum I've ever seen in my life. Clients, look at the young lady. She's obviously attractive. It's electricity.
That is the worst Goldblum impression I've ever seen. Please do more of it.
That was my
nasally. He's kind of like Woody Allen.
I've had great sex from your body or electricity.
That really is one of the most significant lines. Yeah, that should be in AFI's 100 Greatest Quotes. Well, Jeff Goldblum telling Powder touching him gave him great sex with no further explanation and discussion in the movie.
Well, yes, and the other part too is that was a high school they were at too.
That's so, yeah. Walking into the cafeteria going, oh man, this is a touch you, fuck real good.
Look at the attractive young lady next to you and just notice her and take that in. Yes, it's attractive. She's sexual.
Do you feel it?
It's so stupid. But the best line in that movie, and I laugh so hard, is when, in my opinion, at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, I already know what we're talking about.
And Lance Henriksen says to the other deputy who doesn't like Powder, he's like, I didn't think it was possible to find a guy too white for you or something like that.
Oh no, I thought you were going to talk about when like Lance Henriksen's like, they say he's some kind of retard.
that too.
Yeah.
They might be retarded.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that was I think that's a good time capsule about how like language has changed.
Yeah, because that's
over
supposed to be serious. It's supposed to be, oh my God, is he retarded?
He's retarded. Yeah, they're also the whole town is scared and curious that this there might be a retarded person.
the
But
well,
then
okay,
lo and behold, he's memorized Moby Dick like you guys, the two other whitest guys to read Moby Dick. Traditionally black piece of media that people in inner cities the world over.
Enough white people like Moby Dick. I'll tell you what. Quick segue. I'm here on UNC Chapel Hill campus, and there's a big game. Mike might know there's a big game going on as we speak. It's about to kick off, and so it's the North Carolina Tar Heels versus the NC State Wolfpack.
What's the etymology of Tar Heel? What's that about? It sounds racist.
Oh, don't make me tell this stupid story.
I literally don't know.
Well, there's two explanations. It's it's a legend, a myth, they love to talk about it, but the dominant understanding, if I recall, is that the Confederate soldiers fighting for North Carolina wouldn't leave their post even when they were outnumbered, as if they had tar on their heels. So
Okay.
it's a nod to the bravery and courage of the Confederacy.
Sounds
Now,
good.
that gets whitewashed into something more like, well, North Carolina, we just stick to our guns, and it was a big pine tar and coke and pitch industry in the 1700s. They exported a lot of pine products, but it's the Confederate. The whole school is built on racism, and it's a slave school.
Wow, I'm shocked. What are we going to do about this?
No, but what I wanted to say is I hate football Saturdays because it is the most Caucasian fucking thing.
Oh, I hate white people like us, guys, right?
That's not quite what I'm saying, because I don't like that either, but like there's certain white things that are just so because they are you, but at the same time, I'm talking about the turtleneck dad and grandpa alumni who come and meet with their son or daughter to go.
That'd be you if you had kids. The only difference is you don't have kids to go visit a college.
Not be me. And
So there's only one way to find out is for you to have kids and see what
I
happens.
would send my kids to the game with Uncle Mike and say, you got to have a foam finger and a foot-long hot dog. And that's how you have a football game. Would never have them come to this pussy-ass turtleneck wine and cheese crowd outside.
You tell me they serve wine and cheese at the football games there?
It's a very bougie, wealthy Caucasian thing. This is North Carolina. This is UNC I'm talking. This isn't every school. But this is the more elite.
That's why you're there.
and you fired your head coach too.
You personally.
Yeah.
Old Mac Brown, but
Old
Mac Brown.
That's a
But yeah,
fucking good coach name. Old Mac Evan.
I've been to one UNC football game in 14 years.
because I know Evan, we've talked about like every now and then be like, oh, we should come out there for a football game. I just never really truly had any interest in going to a game. One of the times when I was visiting you, like the stadium was open and you were doing something, so I had a couple hours. So I just like walked in the stadium and sat down and just like kind of like just hung out in the stadium with nobody there for 30 minutes. I feel like that would have been better than going to a game and like a better experience than and just like checking it out.
Well, and we are from a college that is a real football school, and it's irritating to see them try to mimic it in their soft, superficial way in a place like Chapel Hill, which is not a football. It's basketball.
It's basketball.
So you're saying a Badger game is the platonic ideal, or a Packers game is the platonic ideal of the football experience.
I mean,
Everyone else are pretenders to the throne.
Mike knows way better than me, but my sense is that a Wisconsin Badgers game, that's a real fucking football game. Like a Ohio State Buckeyes game is a real football.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that, and I would like begrudgingly say if we're talking about like what's a real football game. I think like when you get into like Ohio State or like Texas,
yeah,
those states have like much more high school football passion and infrastructure. So it's probably a bit more towards the platonic ideal when you get there. But yeah, I think like Madison, if you're talking about like, hey, I want to see a big time college football game, like where do I go? I mean, like Madison would be the place to go. And I feel like I haven't been to a game, but I feel like UNC would be like closer to like Northwestern than it would be to Wisconsin when we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Duke, but there. But basketball. Again, basketball is completely different. Basketball, I would say like Duke-UNC is like platonic ideal.
This is the basketball mecca.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This is basketball Jerusalem.
Yeah. But but just getting back to talking about like powder, because
I thought we were talking about Red One. Are we done talking about? We're going to open.
yeah, you know what?
I
I got plenty to fucking say.
Sometimes you facilitate the meeting, sometimes the meeting facilitates you. The idea was to start with Red One, but I feel like we just naturally
I'm
gravitate
not done talking about.
powder.
Well, here's what I'll say. Do you have? Were you building off of something specific in powder?
Well, I feel like the conversation was like naturally flowing.
I know,
towards
and
powder.
I want to resist not talking about Red One more. I'm here to resist that. As long as we're going to circle back, we can talk about whatever. I'm not done talking about Red One.
Okay, you have things to talk about with Red One. I feel like we got some Red One momentum. You're a huge Chris Evans fan, so let's.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say. If you want to understand why I like Red One, I think it's useful to imagine, rather than a big stupid movie at the big stupid multiplex, imagine a slightly different universe where you're at a thrift store and you're flipping through VHS tapes and you see this kind of shit and you read the plot. You're like, this sounds fucking great. This is like the dumbest shit kids movie I've ever heard of. We would be hooting and hollering watching that shit. And here it's in the fucking theater. And everybody's like, ho hum, stupid. And I'm like, if this was on a VHS tape at the thrift store, we'd all be jacking off all night about it. And I'm jacking off in the theater about it like God intended.
I would have enjoyed it much more if it had a lower budget cast and was on VHS or
Well, here's what I'm saying. The cast is the problem. But like what is happening in that movie? And like the fact that they put so much money into like the steroid polar bear and shit, that couldn't happen on a lower budget. And it's a miracle that they somehow. And the thing is, I like Jake Kasdan. I like the new Jumanji movies. I like Walk Hard. This is a smart, funny guy who makes funny movies on purpose, and he's continuing to do it. And everyone's shitting all over it. I'm here to say thank you, Jake Kasdan. I see your work. I appreciate your work.
It's not that I'm disagreeing with any of that. It's just that like all I can say is that the experience of watching it was that it was kind of work for me.
Well,
I just don't. I understand. I hear you. I don't deny your lived experience. I just don't. And this is common. I've had this. Like I said, I've had the same conversation with Nick about. And here's the other thing I'll say. If you're gonna get into any theatrically released mistake Christmas movie in our lifetime, Nutcracker 3D, aka Nutcracker: The Untold Story, where John Turturro is the Rat King Hitler, that's the one. That's as good as it's gonna get. I'll be thrilled if in my lifetime a more retarded big budget Christmas movie than Nutcracker: The Untold Story happens. We're all just lapping up the dregs after that, but I'm happy to lap up the dregs.
Okay. Two quick things though. So one is there was a part of me that was hoping, I didn't have high expectations, but I was hoping for, okay, we got a big budget Christmas movie, holiday movie. I'm with you. Let's see it. I hope it's stupid and big bang boom, fireworks. I was hoping for something like Jingle All the Way. That was an actual good Christmas movie. And this was just retarded. I mean, like, and the second thing I'll say is I'm a little bit biased because to me, all the stuff with like Krampus and like Let's Make Santa buff steampunk sci-fi is
I love just hearing you say it.
Is tapping into this like really unfortunate but very popular idea of like it's like the people who go to the butt rock fest. This was catering to them.
How
right?
so?
Well, they're trying to engage this kind of like spooky goth lore, this really superficial like shopping mall style of counterculture. And
I think that Red One is attempting to be a counterculture movie. This is your take?
Attempting to get the people who think they're into counterculture who buy, blacklight posters at Spencer Gifts if it's the 90s.
And that's not you and me? Are you denying that typo
Which is me, yeah.
negative over here isn't a
I'm
fucking...
trying to, what can I say? I'm not putting it, I'm not smart enough to say it the way
No, I understand what you're saying, and I think you're right. And again, that's part of the appeal to me. It's like
All
they spilled a little Hot Topic sauce on your dumbass kids movie.
Well, I think if I would have watched this with a glass of eggnog on DVD with my good PB boys around me, I would have had a good time. But like in the theater, like seriously, when I have to watch 3 movies in 48 hours for this podcast, it's on. It's work. I'm gonna get my work done. And it was like I was really looking forward to Gummo. That was the one I was kind of trying to like set up for the right time. I knew what Powder was going to be. And this one was just sort of like, I don't know, it's a crapshoot. And it was homework. It was hard work. It was boring.
Well, I guess, not
Yeah.
everything's for everybody. And my last thing that I want to say, besides acknowledging that, like, really, for me, just seeing The Rock and Chris Evans' faces does make it work. And I kind of have to, like, in every, like, 90, there's a lot of, like, marriage stuff where there's stuff about, like, imagining a different person when you're fucking your wife. I'm watching The Rock and Chris Evans and just putting any other face there to, like, get through the experience.
Rob Schneider.
Anybody. But I will say, and that relates to, and fucking Lucy Liu, who's like on the poster in Third Build is barely it. She sucks. Whatever. Fuck her. Fucking what's his name? Santa Claus. J.K. Simmons. He's whatever. That's right. He's playing it straight, which is its own kind of funny. And like, I specifically called out the scene where they're like having a serious conversation while he's bench pressing, and he's just selling it like it's a drama.
Right.
That's hilarious. But what I want to say, I don't give a fuck about the Krampus stuff. Whatever. I like that there's some Hot Topic juice on it, but like out of fucking nowhere, Kiernan Shipka is my new inappropriate young actress crush. I thought she was so fucking... She's like the made-up Winter Witch or whatever, whose powers make no sense. She was also the best part of Long Legs, where she's the crazy lady that they go visit the insane asylum. Okay. I'm Team Kiernan Shipka now. Kiernan Shipka, if you're watching this, I just want to say, just like for Jay Kazdan, I see your work. I appreciate your work. Thank you for your service, Kiernan Shipka. I'll be reporting for duty for all your movies now.
Maybe you can fall in love with her and
I already have.
start a farm. Well, and you also, it's sort of similar to you're moving from Chloe Savini, who I know has been a long time.
I've never moved away from Chloe Savini. That's permanent. Once you enter the pantheon, you're there forever. You're chiseled in stone. We're just adding new ones. Chloe Savini, she's an early one. Kiernan Shipka's the newest one. In between, you got Kristen Stewart on the Chloe Savini end. You got Margaret Qualley in there.
Just to be clear, this is a Spank the Monkey type of situation.
This is the perfect. These are like not just women who I think are beautiful, but I think are talented. Because I'm the kind of guy where like I don't even if you don't have anything going on and you just look pretty, get the fuck out of here.
I need some substance. Okay, I need some depth. All right.
And I'm not saying that Kiernan Shipka is on a Chloe Savini level.
Not yet.
She's young. She's still getting started.
Oh God, boy.
But you know what? I will say, and me and Mike talked about this about Red One. Although I hate him and I think he's only in movies from blowjobs or whatever, Chris Evans intermittently deciding to do different accents is accidentally funny, for sure, not on purpose. I continue to maintain there are many actually successfully funny things on purpose in the movie. Chris Evans forgetting what accent, making up an accent, that was the most not intentionally funny thing that was good. I will admit, the scene when he looks at the baby to steal the candy, I did actually laugh at that. That is
the best scene in the whole movie. That and J.K. Simmons eating the cookie are my 2 favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was gonna say, I think like Chris Evans like taking candy from a baby. I'm gonna put that like in the top 5 scenes of the movie for sure, because you saw the setup, and I still had some doubt of like, is he really going to take the candy from the baby? It's so good. And he did. So I thought that was well done and well executed. And I think you look at the movie, which is not good, but like that scene, like that setup there, that would fit in any movie. I do want to go back to the Jingle All the Way comparison here too. I know that an area of disagreement that we have about movies is the importance of runtime. However, still going to talk about runtime because Red One's about like 2 hours and 3 minutes long. I just looked it up. Jingle All the Way is 90 minutes long, and Jingle All the Way is like a way more focused story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, workaholic dad who's trying to make it up for his son, and then Sinbad is like the competition there, and then just like wackiness ensues. I enjoy like Jingle All the Way, but it's like just a much more focused movie where like Red One has like some elements of that going on, but it just isn't quite as tight, and it didn't give me quite as much of the stuff which I actually do like, kind of like unironically appreciate. So you mentioned the whole J.K. Simmons pumping iron and talking to The Rock about like the importance of like gifts and children and all of that stuff, and like that type of those types of like sincere Hallmark movie style monologues. I watch those and I'm like, yeah, you kind of get me going. And the movie just needed kind of more, I think, just more of that tone. So it just didn't, yeah, it just, yeah, it was kind of going out. So that's my commentary.
In my opinion, we all agree Jingle All the Way is one of the best Christmas movies of all time.
Best
I would
movie.
say it's fundamentally a different kind of movie.
Yes.
And if you try and judge them, they're not trying. And here's the thing: I think people being like, "Can you believe that stupid movie?" And I'm like, the movie's trying to be stupid. Everybody's so convinced they're better than a movie. That movie's trying to be stupid and is succeeding to be stupid.
Wait, are we talking about Jingle All the Way or Red One?
I'm talking about Red One.
Wait.
Jingle All the Way is like a fundamentally rooted in reality, family.
I think you're giving it. I think you're giving Red One way too much credit. I think the movie was confused and it didn't know what it was trying to do. I think.
Okay, here's related to what you're saying. Have either of you seen either of the new Jumanji movies?
I have not.
Which are the preceding films by this director. It's the same shit, and they're really good. He knows what he's doing.
So fair enough. So maybe we need to ingest this in the context of the full body.
They're really goofy and effects heavy, and like irreverent and aware of like the tropes they're doing, but like when the first Jumanji movie came out, I was like, oh my god, why would we do another fucking Jumanji? Straight up, I think the new Jumanji is better than the old Jumanji, and I have rewatched the old Jumanji in the past couple of years.
But see, to me, what Mike you were talking about with Jingle All the Way, and I get it, they're different types of movies, but one of the things that made Jingle All the Way pop and endure was the way that it engaged with the sort of anchoring elements of the holiday. So the toy is central in Jingle All the Way, and the toy is built into the plot in a very like meaningful, clever way. This movie had an opportunity to do something similar, and it totally missed it. Like I was so disappointed where it's like, no, you can't just have a ring that blows toys up to be the real thing. It's got to be a little bit more grounded than that. You've got to be a little bit more creative.
What is this not grounded enough?
I like the fact that they're using the toy stores to get around,
right.
But they could have done better with like how they integrated the use of the toys into their like objectives. It can't just be like, oh, we can just make any toy a giant thing. No, that's too stupid.
I think there's no such thing as too stupid. And that's what I like, because what I told Mike when we were talking about it the first time is my favorite thing about it is like a lot of stuff about it feels like a bad idea an 8-year-old boy would have. They'd be like, what if the snowmen were like muscly and like attacked you? And what if everything was like militarized? And I'm like, yeah, that's dumb as shit, and that appeals to my like juvenile lizard brain correctly.
So I think you touch on something where I think we might have a little bit of a difference of opinion here about like the whole like militarized portion of it, because like how bureaucratic everything was in the movie about like basically it's like the Department of Homeland Security, but like for like Christmas or whatever. Like I feel like that part is something where I have a hard time imagining an 8-year-old being like, oh boy, I want to know more about like the chain of command that exists here.
No, because it's not about the chain of command. It's about like people in uniforms and blinking buttons and like screens and shit. Like I love that shit when I was that age.
It helps me to think about the movie. Like if I can view this with the same monocle that I watch Home Alone 4, and Chris Evans is like a French Stewart type of person, then I can get into it. Then
This is what I'm saying.
Okay, so fair enough.
And in that way, Jingle All the Way is the polar opposite, because the two leads are the best casting of all fucking time. They could read the phone book and it'd be one of my top 10 movies.
I mean, the fact that Jingle All the Way has Phil Hartman makes it invincible. So,
right.
But the thing is like, yeah, the more I think about those scenes with Chris Evans and him just making his decisions, and then the whole idea of his character was just so stupid. It didn't make any
Sure
sense.
is.
Made no sense whatsoever. He's some
But like, I
hacker.
don't want it to make sense. I don't want it to not be stupid, and I don't want it to make sense. And it's doing what I want it to do, and it's doing what it sets out to do.
He's a hacker deadbeat dad who also knows karate.
Great.
He is the most uncharismatic person I've ever seen.
No, literally, there's something going on. It makes no sense he's in movies as much as he is.
I don't
He's never
get it.
good in
He's
anything.
like he's the main guy in a bunch of movies. It doesn't make sense.
And at least The Rock, I get it. I think The Rock is checked out and it's just a job he clocks in and out of now. But The Rock used to be good. I understand The Rock. I think he's done now.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
wasn't.
never made any fucking sense.
Yeah, The Rock does his thing. I think what's unfortunate to me is like the funniest, most interesting part of the movie was the J.K. Simmons version of Santa, and it's really not a big part of the movie because he's kidnapped and asleep the whole time, and you have to just make do with Chris Evans. And why do they always have to put a penis boy kid in these movies who is like deformed? The child, like I think this is a frequent thing. They'll put some weird kind of pre-mid-pubescent boy in movies, and it's just like that kid looks wrong. Something is deeply wrong.
Well, I think in order to like be a child that is permitted to be in movies, you're already living a fucked up life, and you're probably part of a pedophile sex ring or whatever.
That's right.
Really, this is what just leads us into Powder.
Wait, was Powder molested? So, okay, full disclosure, Powder got fucked up for me. So, and I didn't get to watch it.
I knew it. Well, you have a memory. You could do a reenactment of Powder.
I've seen it a million times, and I watched the first like 60 minutes, and then it got fucked out. There's nothing I could. I did my
I
best.
kind of think the first 60 minutes is the best part. I think the ending is not as good as the start in terms of the fun stuff.
Well, I know what happens, but like, yeah, it got fucked up right around the time where he is with the girl, and they're having their intimacy, and they have a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
When then the dad comes in.
No,
That's later. That's later.
they're outside and they have it, and he's already.
They're like at school, like the first time he like is intimate with the girl. You're talking about later
Right.
when it's like more public and the dad's like, "You get away from my daughter."
Yeah, retard.
What if it's contagious?
But just take a step back here. So the premise of Powder is that,
No.
yeah, for those who have not seen the movie, is that Powder, when he was just about to be born, his mother was struck by lightning, and that caused his skin to become just like bright white, and Powder to become a super genius who was completely conscious from the day he was born, and is aware of everything going on, and also had the most advanced intellect in the history of mankind.
And
Yeah.
and you're not done. There's other things it did.
I'm drawing a blank on that. We watched.
Well, he has like the weird psychic touching transference of the
Right. Oh
electrical
well, yeah.
powers.
I mean, he kind of has that whatever powers that he needs. Yeah, the psychic powers. He can make things happen with spoons, and
The
he
scene
can
with the
also.
spoon, that could be a short film and would win an Academy Award in and of itself. When that spoon peeks up over the table,
Yeah,
standing ovation.
yeah, that was as good as it gets. See, and I'm going to say, I don't think that there was. And well, I take a step back because I talk about that whole spoon thing. I do wonder if the filmmakers were like, oh, this is kind of going to be funny, or if that was like a serious, sincere thing. Couldn't really tell, but like the spoon coming up, I
like to think that they were like, well, because it is building up to that scene. It is kind of like, oh shit, are they going to fucking kill him immediately this first day at lunch? And you're kind of like, how are we ever going to break this insane tension of this bully? And I bet that like in the script it was like, and then the spoons move around and everybody gets scared. But then when they were shooting it, they were like, what if the spoon comes up over here? And they just were like, oh, come on. They were like riffing. They were like, yeah, keep going. And they were yes-anding everything with the spoons until it was just like completely over the top. And then at the end, they're like, damn, this doesn't fit the tone at all, but this rule's too hard. We got to keep all the spoon shit in there.
Many of the white boy bullies look eerily familiar. Like Eddie Vedder is the lead villain in this movie. Did you notice that? That's Eddie
Well,
Vedder.
I believe there's a joke about that in Powder 2, the People.
Yeah.
Oh, I only watched that very quickly. I have to revisit.
Oh my God! Because the joke when they do the credits at the end, the bully is just credited as Eddie Vedder. They literally are saying the same thing you are.
Okay, well, I think it is Eddie Vedder. It's Eddie Vedder's nephew. Yeah, I mean Jeff Goldblum just incredibly.
But anyway, yeah, there really is like
I was thinking about Jeff Goldblum in this movie, and I feel like the director didn't like direct Jeff Goldblum at all, and just let Jeff Goldblum just have total free
Let him cook.
reign
which is
and
what you should do.
creative control there. And this, so I'm just trying to think here. So this was what 95 that this came out. So we're 2 years removed from Jurassic Park. What else was like Jeff Goldblum in around that time? Like, was this his first movie since Jurassic Park, or did he do something?
I mean, you got Hideaway with Alicia Silverstone in there around the same time, which is a different psychic transference movie directed by personal hero Brett Leonard, hero of the podcast, one of the only Brett Leonard movies we haven't done on the podcast.
Yeah.
What else was he in the early 90s? Yeah, I'm blanking. I'm embarrassed. I'm coming up with his Hideaway.
Where is? Oh, there's Evan. You're back. But yeah, that was a good. But yeah, no, Jeff Goldblum was again everything that you would want him to be in the movie.
Yeah, and like it's funny because like he's just like so fun and like kind of ridiculous, and then like not just his performance, but the character of Lance Henriksen is just so dark.
Yeah.
And you're like, and he's playing it so gritty, which is adds to the insanity of the movie. That Jeff Goldblum's like, and Lance Henriksen's like, fuck. And then he's like, my wife's dying. And what means, but I want to get your opinion, Evan. As someone who's seen this movie more times than me, I'm like, so you got Lance Henriksen, whose wife is dying, and then he lives with Susan Tyrrell. What the fuck is Susan Tyrrell's relationship? Is that his mom? Is that
Why
like
did he chew up the ice? Why does he put the ice in his mouth?
that is just like someone that can't swallow. That's like a thing for someone who's like in such a state of whatever. That is the thing you do like for people that like don't have the ability to swallow to get moisture in their mouth. But do you know what I'm talking about? So he lives with Susan Tyrrell. Who the fuck is she? Why the fuck is she there? The other lady that's in his house. You know, this lady that's like, don't let Powder in here. Don't let that boy in here. I'm like, who are you? That's his wife who's dying. You're not really old enough to be his mom or her mom. Is like, what the fuck? And I feel like it's never explained or addressed why she's there, who she is, except as like a crazy lady to be like, don't you let that boy in this house.
See, when we were watching the movie, I was very confused, and I concocted the story in my mind that she was actually Lance Henriksen's wife, and the woman that was in the bed was Lance Henriksen's mother. Because it was on
yes,
unclear.
because they both they're all old enough that even now, as someone who's close to their age, I'm like, I don't know, it could be 40, could be 70, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
These are all kind of craggly faced, hard living people.
But just to go back to the Lance Henriksen portion, like the way that he portrayed the character, was Powder released the same time that Millennium was out, or was that a little bit before?
Millennium a little later.
Okay, because that would
97, something like that.
Okay, that would make sense that like, well,
but it is that kind of Lance performance.
Yeah, I did also appreciate because we talked, Adam and I talked about this after the movie, is that you had the deputy who shot the deer and had that like amazing, like that transcendental experience, and then you also had Lance Henriksen who was able to like communicate with his dying wife and get closure there and all that. And but then still at the end of the movie, they're like, Powder, you gotta come with us.
Yeah, the way they react at the end of the movie makes no sense. They've both had like understood the power of this child and what he can do, but then they're still like, no, we're fucking putting him in the fucking boys' home, or fuck you.
Remind me what happens at the end? He goes up to God. He gets like lightning bolted up.
So what happens at the end of the movie is, I mean, just try to piece this together. Yeah, because like Lance Henriksen, the deputy, Mary Steenburgen, Jeff Goldblum, they're all there, and I can't remember what exactly they're.
Well, so he kills Eddie Vedder and then brings Eddie Vedder back to life, and then he's like, "All right, I'm fucking out of here." And then he runs away to just go back to the basement where he started. And Mary Steenburgen, everyone knows that's where he's going to go. As soon as the whole fucked up Eddie Vedder murder, Lazarus Rising thing happens, they're like, well, he's going back to the basement. Mary Steenburgen gets there first and is like, yeah, well, we got to get you out of here. And then the cops show up and they're like, no fucking way, we're doing the same shit that keeps going bad. You know, we keep putting them there and people keep dying, we're doing it again, or get the fuck out of here. Even though we both had our entire lives turned upside down by this kid, we hate him and we want to put him in fake jail. And then he makes a run for it, and then lightning happens, and he just disappears. And that is like, but when we about to watch that, and then they have like this spinning around, everybody like hamming up their reaction to him disappearing. And I was like, what are they happening? And I think Mary Steenburgen's first, and I was like, oh my god, give me Jeff, show me Jeff. And Jeff is just like. Yeah, it's so fucking good. I meant to go back and make an animated GIF of Jeff Goldblum's reaction after because it's so fucking good.
Yeah, no, the Jeff Goldblum reaction there is great. And actually, just for the Jeff Goldblum too, there's in Jurassic Park, there's like the iconic shot where like he's like kind of on his side after he's injured and like his shirt's off and all that stuff. I feel like there were some good like Jeff Goldblum poses. So
sure. He's an iconic guy.
Yeah, so like when he goes in the cafeteria to talk to Powder about how his life has changed, I feel like he's like doing a nice pose in the door frame for a few hours. But yeah, I think though at the end of the movie that, you know, like Powder, I think he talked about something about how like, hey, we're all just like energy and like we're all part of the same energy system. So I think Powder at the end, like he gets struck by lightning and basically his energy just returns to the system there, kind of like the end of Lucy.
Absolutely.
Where
Lucy's kind of a sequel.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of the Tim Allen book where he discovers metaphysics. I'm Not Really Here, because that book is all about like, well, we're all just particles and energy. Like I think I have to look up when that book came out. Tim Allen may have had a transcendental experience watching Powder. Then
you had a little back and forth about that on Twitter, if I recall.
I think technically Matt Goins did, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where he said, I know less and less every day.
That's correct. I should just get that tweet printed on a shirt before Twitter dissolves into the earth. Before Twitter becomes energy particles back up in the sky with powder.
But the way you said it, Adam, was what I was looking for, which is the last thing that happens in the movie is he makes a run for it and then lightning happens and he disappears.
Yeah. And everyone's reaction is to just be like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Not to be like, wait, what? Nobody's like, excuse me, what's going on here? Everyone's just like,
He finally is going back to the electrons.
Yeah.
Back to his foundation.
Yeah, it's kind of like the like one of the like the last like decent episodes of The Simpsons when Ron Howard is pitching a movie and it's like, this movie is about a boy and his robot who travels back in time for some reason. And like that's kind of the vibes here. Yeah, but I don't. But like Powder though, okay. So I'm going to say some good things about Powder is that this is that classic, sincere, goofy, bad '90s movie, which it kept my attention the entire time I was watching it.
And that never a dull moment.
Yeah, and there is like still like enough stuff that happens where you're like, oh yeah, hey, like this is interesting. Let's see where this is going. Like the basketball scene, like when Eddie Vedder like has the heart attack and like he gets revived. Like those types of scenes, like they don't necessarily go anywhere, but they keep you hooked in. So and it's I appreciated the viewing experience of Powder.
I find Mary Steenburgen to be obnoxious.
For sure. She's a woman that I'm like, I'm sure she's a great actress, but I just don't like, she's on the list of people I just irrationally dislike. Even though she's in a lot of great things I like, and I think she's good in them, I'm just like, get out of here.
She's perfect in Clifford and Step Brothers. Mm-hmm. Which but in this movie just very annoying.
Yeah, that's another funny thing is like at the very start of the movie we were talking about, because like the start of the movie is the grandparents are dead and the retard's hiding in the basement, and then they're like, we had to call you in to her, and we're like, what is her job? That's
I'll never tell you. She's some kind of social worker of sorts. And it's just
I just like the idea that she's like the dog catcher for retards.
The retard whisperer. It's like, yeah, we might have a retard. Can you come and do whatever it is you do?
She just has like fidget spinners or like shiny things.
Right. She just does baby talk, and lo and behold, he turns out to be a genius.
And
I
I will say, I want to just, because not everyone watching will know, we should put a link in the description. The fake trailer, Powder 2, Powder 2 the People, one of the best YouTube things ever, back when YouTube was good. One of the funniest jokes they do in the Powder 2, Powder 2 the People trailer is they just directly recreate the line where he's like, "You have the most advanced intellect I've ever seen." Because that's hilarious, even though it's exactly what he says in the fucking movie. Oh, and it's fucking Ray Wise. That's another one where like you just huge recognition applause in the entire arena when Ray Wise is the guy who's like, "You're a fake smart. I hate you."
uh yeah. So, powder, but again, I'm still trying to, what spooks me a little bit, what disturbs me is that years ago, I watched this movie and had a totally different experience.
Did you ever
Well,
cry watching this movie as a child?
No, but I think I just thought it was like, okay, yeah, this is a serious, they're saying something important.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, they are, like the scene with the deer being like, "Yeah, fucking imagine that. That is a serious idea, and the
Yeah.
idea of like letting someone suffering die, that's a serious idea. But it's just sandwiched in between all this fucking nonsense. But that's kind of why it's the best of both worlds. You get to have sincere engagement with dramatic, depressing topics. But then my favorite part is really, if you think about it, there's the him being smart and psychic, whatever. The electricity stuff honestly kind of feels like a great way to shoehorn in special effects, which as a kid, you're like, "Oh, wow, there's like zippity zap, crazy stuff happening," which really, there's no reason. It's arbitrary how he gets his powers. They never really explain it except to be like, "That's how it started, that's how it ends." But then throughout the movie, they get to have all the electricity shit happen, which is cool. And you should just have a fake, made up reason to shoehorn in special effects into a serious kids movie. That's a good idea.
I'm putting myself into the mind. If I was 11 years old watching the movie, I feel like I would have been like blown away by the high school experiment scene when he's like levitating with the electricity.
It looks great.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and then how do they do that? Like the spoon thing. So I feel like if you're 10, 11, 12 years old watching the movie in the 90s, like there's enough there to really get you excited about the special effects. But yeah, I mean, I think that is true about like how the movie looks. The special effects, great special effects. I mean, it holds up. I mean, like when he explodes at the end and like his energy and he goes supernova. That all looks great, and probably I think the movie looked better than Red One. I mean,
in some ways,
yeah.
in some ways,
yeah. So
there's another movie that we should consider for this podcast that in the same category as Powder, and that movie is Phenomenon.
Oh my god! That we talked about that the whole time, and then at the end, the Powder DVD from Scarecrow has a really funny thing where it doesn't even have trailers or previews; it just shows you posters for other movies. And the first fucking one was Phenomenon, and then we watched the Phenomenon trailer because we had dinner before the movie, and we were already talking about Phenomenon because of Powder, and then Mike correctly remembered the premise of Phenomenon. I completely failed. But then when we rewatched the Phenomenon trailer, it reminds me of how it hooked me because me and Mike were both like, "Why did we want to watch that movie when we were kids? That has like what that makes no sense." Yeah. When you watch the preview, they try and make you think it's like a UFO alien thing that gives them the powers. And as a kid, I was obsessed with UFOs and aliens, and that hooked me. That was the bait that they don't deliver on in that movie. But I would love to do that. We were already talking about that.
So we need to put this in the context. These are big budget films trying to tap into a cultural phenomenon at the time.
What was the Powder phenomenon?
The primary sort of whatever they're trying to get. So at the time, let's think about what was big. So movie wise, they had just re-released Star Wars in the theater. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. Before Phantom Menace, any of that, they put the first 3 Star Wars back in the theater. There was the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, and the X-Files was the biggest show on TV. And I think that these movies are like Hollywood fat cats, like, okay, well, this is now what we have to do. We have to make a kind of UFO movie with a heart. It has to be a space movie, but it has to have a heart because that's what these things are. That's my theory. I'm
Okay,
pitching.
everything you're talking about for sure was after Powder. I don't remember what year Phenomenon came out.
Well, I think from looking at this, I want to say Phenomenon had the same opening weekend as Independence Day, but I could be wrong about that. Evan, you're talking about the UFOs, so to zoom out a little bit on the context. I think we're going back to the late '80s or late '70s, early '80s, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But also, was it like 1991 when Fire in the Sky was released, which obviously completely different movie than Phenomenon or whatnot. But
that's the movie I wanted.
Yeah, but that was but still had kind of the kind of the fascination with aliens in outer space and whatnot.
Communion, another great '90s UFO movie.
But
what I'm saying is I think you're right about Phenomenon, but what is the thing that Powder was feeding off of?
Well, I think Powder is feeding off of Phenomenon and Contact.
Well, Powder's from before Phenomenon by several years.
Well, I think the theme though is like somebody who's just has these super duper cognitive superpowers.
I thought Powder was 97.
No way. I think. Want to bet? Let's bet.
I don't want to bet. I just think I thought that.
I work with a guy at my job that loves betting. I'm going to be broke in a year because we both are idiots about betting.
I think Powder was 95 and Phenomenon was 96, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think that it's similar. I would say, if you were to put Powder and Phenomenon in a room together, they would.
Sure, but I think Evan is 100% dead on that. They're trying to do soft, gentle, family, alien, whatever for Phenomenon.
Right.
But I see the overlap between Phenomenon and Powder, and the '90s UFO shit was huge. I don't think Powder is really touching UFO. Powder is doing a weirder thing that I don't. Powder is doing the closest to alien Powder stuff is fucking Starman or whatever. Starman is kind of Powder, but alien.
What about X-Files? Didn't that start in 93, 94?
That's correct. But you think Powder?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there is the lightning episode with Jack Black. You are right. There is the lightning episode. That is an interesting idea. The lightning episode of X-Files.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, I think that's a good point to the Phenomenon, and it does jog the memory because with Phenomenon, I have to believe that what hooked me and because I saw Phenomenon in the theaters. I think it was at the Regency Mall Theater too, is where it was. But was yeah. What did you say?
Tyler Nelson called me up on the phone and was like, "Do you want to go see Phenomenon?" It wasn't like you want to do something. It wasn't, "Do you want to hang out?" It was, "Do you want to go see Phenomenon right now?" And my answer was yes. Please have your mom.
So just because this is crazy, the lightning episode of X-Files, which is the closest piece of media to doing the Powder thing I could possibly think of, came out 2 weeks before the movie Powder. So they couldn't have influenced each other, but they came out the same fucking month, which would have been really funny to be what's up with lightning? Was there a lightning outbreak in the 90s?
There's some other common cause then. Because you're right, Powder's too weird to just not have an antecedent. There's got to be something.
Well, and the thing is, Starman is kind of Powder, but Starman was not a hit, and no one would be trying to we got to ride the Starman coattails.
I will say though, I do appreciate this with Powder's kind of the premise of the movie is that somebody a pregnant woman gets struck by lightning and her son becomes a super powerful genius. I just kind of like that. Okay, we're not going to explain why that happened, but it just did. I kind of like that that element of the movie, and
for sure. Yeah, I love when they don't explain.
Yeah, and there's no need to. So it's.
But if it was when that happened on the other side of the equator, there was a similar lightning strike. Only in this case, it was unlike rather than being mild mannered and gentle and humane, the offspring is diabolical and menacing. And instead of albino white, he's dark black. So that it's Powder. So Powder happened in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, what would it be called? What's black powder called?
Soot. It's called soot.
I'm gonna pee my pants. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back.
No, it's just called black powder. This is black powder. Okay. This is what, yeah, we're gonna edit this out, Mike. Don't worry. We're gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, more on that after we stop recording. The but yeah, no, I think I also need to tee things up when we get to um when we get to I want to discuss Gummo here. By the way, just to get some sports talk coming up here.
Wait,
Michigan,
you know we're still recording. You want me to stop recording?
no, we can keep recording. I'm just going through some
Sports talk. Yeah, the Tar Heels lost to Michigan State.
well, no. Michigan beat Ohio State, and
But
and Ohio State was a 19 and a half point favorite in that game.
yeah, but the Tar Heels lost to the Spartans.
Yeah, Tar Heels. Well, okay. So welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed the facility. I'll be going there. I'll be going there shortly as well.
I think it was a good episode when there's pee break, which I guess we usually do that. We should have like intermission music that we play when it happens, and we do it in real time. Yeah, that's where you're going to pee into. You're going to need a bigger boat. Speaking of urination and Red One, apparently like The Rock was like peeing in the bottles during production, and he like, what's your source? You got like a Hollywood insider? I think it's just like the general internet. Like apparently like the part of the cost overruns of the movie were like The Rock showing up to production like 8 hours late and then just like whatever. But so I think now is a good time to pivot into Gummo, which we have. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, so I'm going to say just I think there's a story to be told about Gummo. So kind of like Mr. Show had like the story of Everest. This is like the story. This is the story of Gummo. And so Adam and I were going to see it at the SIF Film Center. However, it was sold out, so we were unable to see a screening, and that is really what led to the Powder Gummo double feature. Gummo is a movie. I think like most people, if people are aware of Gummo, I think most people will talk about like the bacon bathtub scene that they had. And Gummo is a movie. I think Evan, we had the same experience where I'd been meaning to see Gummo since like 2012, 2013, but just like never got around to seeing it until last week. And I was like, fully into it, where if they decided to make Gummo into like a 5-hour movie, I think I would have been able to sit down and watch like 5 hours of Gummo. I was really into it. Famously, which if you do any time reading about it on the internet, there was so much extra footage that for a while Harmony Korine would do like an installation where you would go in like a gallery and it would just have like a million different parts of other stuff they filmed going on at the same time, which he's never saw fit to like release. I don't think it's on the new Criterion disc, but because it's supposed to just be like you're seeing all a bunch of other shitty film. But like he has said that like there was like way more stuff that they were just kind of like living in that world, and he just whittled it down to what we see in the finished product.
Quick clarification. The found footage stuff really found footage, or is it all?
What do you mean found footage? Like the camcorder?
Absolutely stuff. That's all for the movie. Okay, got it. So like with the two guys and the two twin men in the tub, I particularly liked that scene. There's like a scene where there's like two 28-year-old guys and they're identical twins washing each other's back in the tub.
It is super funny. I know you guys are the wrong audience because you haven't seen many Harmony Korine movies. I've seen all of them. I love all of them. Trash Humpers really kind of is like ramped up Ren and Stimpy Gummo, and he has the twin brother scene. There's like a guy that's like fake conjoined twins in Trash Humpers. There's like a lot of like mirroring of Trash Humpers and Gummo, but Gummo is kind of like the more rooted in some form of reality, whereas like literally Trash Humpers is like the Ren and Stimpy version of it.
That sounds good. My main thing with Gummo is, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about, but it was kind of a rest. So like last night, I got the file. You can't find Gummo. It's not streaming.
Which I will say, that is why. So it was showing here in Seattle as part of a Scarecrow curated Unstreamable Fest, where they show movies that you can't stream. And I just want to mention the reason that it's extra stupid that we couldn't go see it is it was supposed to play at the SIF Egyptian, which is a huge 500 person theater with a balcony. Some fucking pipe burst that closed this fucking thing down. I swear to God, I will burn the city to the ground if you don't reopen the Egyptian.
Yeah.
Because the fucking film center, I didn't know until me and Mark were talking about it, that's 90 seats. Of course you're going to fucking sell 90 seats to fucking Gummo. You should play it for a week.
This is Gummo we're talking.
Yeah, and I need to also just kind of talk about that a little bit, to go on a little bit of a tangent here, is that, again, like the SIF Egyptian, one of my favorite theaters, and like we also saw a Paul and Pressburger movie there, Small Back Room, a couple months ago before the pipe burst, and there was also like an ongoing like Paul and Pressburger film festival, and there was another one we were going to see, and I can't remember what it was.
It's going to be in January.
Yeah, but it got moved to January while they're getting that fixed. But yeah, they need to get that.
They don't open that up. There's going to be big trouble, Seattle.
Yeah. Get that.
Oh yeah, and then so when it was sold out, I texted Mike. I was like, "Well, we're not going. This is fucking sold out." And then Mike was like, "Well, Scarecrow has it. We could rent it." And so because I worked near Scarecrow, I went up there and I rented it. And when I was checking out, because the screening was part of a Scarecrow thing, I knew the guy working there would know about it. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking renting this because the shit's sold out." And the guy who was working there, who's a guy who's worked there forever, he was like, "Yeah, it's kind of really popular these days. People are really feeling Gummo these days."
Yeah.
Yeah, because of JD Vance. JD
Yeah.
Vance.
Okay. Yeah. No, Evan, like you mentioned that, like that was my thought, and I know this is Mike's movie podcast and not Mike's political podcast or current event podcast, but I think I mentioned this like probably on multiple occasions of like Hillbilly Elegy on for watching Gummo. So I think that
Did you guys actually see that movie? I did not see it.
I listened to most of the audio book. I didn't actually see the movie,
Okay.
but yeah.
Did you see the movie or read the book?
I read the book, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but no, I think like that book probably like drove a lot of interest in Gummo, because I mean I think Gummo like for mine is basically kind of like a portrayal of that environment. So
Was the book from back then? I don't know shit about the book.
well, so I would say in a sense it was, because I think Hillbilly Elegy was, I think it was like 2016 2017, but that was like when JD Vance was growing up, which would have been about the time that Gummo, because like JD Vance is our age. So
Yeah.
that would have been like, I think the book would have taken place in the 90s when Gummo was made. So I mean,
He turned 40 this year. What do you think he did for his 40th
Yeah.
birthday?
Gummo stuff.
ran for yeah,
Killed some cats.
yeah,
Honestly, a lot of the stuff in the movie Gummo is so. My big thing that I gotta just get this out, and I still don't know quite what to make of it. I didn't know it was Xenia, Ohio. I have spent an improbable amount of time in Xenia
Why?
because I drive from the Triangle, North Carolina, up to the Milwaukee, Madison area of Wisconsin regularly. Probably
Mike's
three
getting the
times.
Atlas out again.
Yeah.
Look out. He's checking your work here.
Mike, you can confirm this. Xenia is exactly halfway. So I will often stop there. Now, people will ask me, why don't you go to Dayton? Dayton's just a few more, like 15 miles north. The reason is that Xenia has much, much cheaper hotels. And I hopefully have gone through this phase and will not go back. But I went through a phase where I had a thing for like shitty hotels. Okay.
I still have that. Why do you want to
I love
stop
it. So I would go to Xenia, and I have stayed in some of the worst, most fucked up Gummo places. And so when I finally got that fucking file running, I had to download a whole software to get Adam's weird, hacker 1998 Duplo file that he sent. And I opened it up, and it's like Xenia, Ohio. And I realized the whole movie was going to be about Xenia, Ohio. I'm like, oh, geez. And here's the thing. I had just come back from a meeting of AA where the speaker was from Xenia, Ohio, and had been talking about how and one of his shticks was like, yeah, I'm from Ohio. That's like a big alcoholic mecca. There's a lot of like drug addicts and alcoholics there. And he's right. And Akron, Ohio is actually the birthplace of AA. Anyway, it was a huge Ohio night. And I put that on, and I knew I was right where I was supposed to be. It's 10 o'clock at night. I had a pizza, and I watched Gummo. And but a lot of the stuff in the movie I want to do is what I wanted to
Sure.
say.
Kill cats.
No, not the cats.
No. I will say There are many iconic scenes in Gummo, which I vividly remembered despite not having watched it in like 20 years. I completely had blocked the large swaths of the movie related to killing and mutilating cats, which like at the time when I watched it, I wasn't even a cat person, but somehow my brain just like suppressed. That's like a third of the movie is cat killing related, and I had completely forgotten that.
Yeah. The a couple things there for like Xenia, Ohio. I am looking at where it is. I didn't realize that it's on the outskirts of Dayton. I assumed that it would have been like more like southeastern Ohio, just like really like far removed from kind of a
Going
major
up
city.
35, you go through Chillicothe, you get to Xenia before you go to Dayton. And if you want to get to real cheap, shitty hotels, Xenia is the place. And I've always just found it to be, you're not going to believe me. I've always felt a magnetism there. I drive through it and I'll just like get off the highway and just start driving around because I want to see. And it really is like it's Gummo. It's a deeply decrepit and dirty, broken hellhole of a place.
Well, we're getting like deep into the weeds here. So like Xenia, is that
We're gonna
right?
have to take away your
Yeah.
map privileges.
Yeah, no, we're so 'cause I know they're like the kid that has like the bunny ears and like who's walking around and whatnot. Like he's like on the overpass and whatnot. So this is a question that Evan, I'm going to ask you, and I have no expectation that you'll know the answer of that one. Is that overpass over 35? Because I went.
So my experience with 35 is that it's more rural. There's not a lot of
Okay.
I don't think.
And
that
I don't
was-
remember, is it, did either of you look up if it's actually filmed in Xenia, Ohio?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh yeah, okay, never mind. You know what? Yeah, thanks for saying that. 'Cause I was going to say I wasn't.
Now we got to go to a different page of the
Yeah.
atlas.
Yeah, because Evan, I wasn't going to ask you, Evan, and be like, "Oh, did you recognize any of that?" And it's like, well, I mean, maybe you would have recognized it from time spent in Nashville.
Not really.
I would say that for whatever reason, just for the overpass scene, is that I've heard like that just kind of like resonated with me in a way of like like Xenia, Ohio, or like in the context of the movie, right? Of like, here's this place that's like completely like extreme poverty and completely destroyed, and then you have cars passing through. That's the level of like insight I'm going to have for that. But
I think that's what they're trying to say is like, like here's this kid suspended on this shitty bridge while everybody else is passing through. Nobody wants to be, you don't stay in Xenia, Ohio. You just pass through. But I'm pretty sure there is not an overpass. And I'm going to confirm that because I'll be driving up on Thursday this week. And I will definitely stay in Xenia on my way up to Wisconsin for my
You
grandfather.
could do a really funny YouTube satirical bit where you pretend you don't know that Gummo was filmed elsewhere and go around demanding people show you the locations from the movie Gummo that wasn't filmed.
So were you in Gummo? I think I recognize you.
And I will say, related to what you said about wanting to do stuff in the movie, the scene in the movie when the people are just drinking and arm wrestling and then they just break everything, Mike said to me, Mike was like, this is some stuff I do on New Year's.
yeah,
exactly right. And that's what I loved about it. And I wanted to be there. I love that scene.
You guys hadn't even seen Gummo, but Mike has been reenacting that scene from Gummo on New Year's Eve since you were children.
Yeah,
possibly before the movie came out.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna say like the spirit of the movie is obviously like growing up in like Racine, Wisconsin. Like the circumstances that we had growing up were like vastly different than what they were in Gummo, but there are like some overlap. So stuff like in Racine's like North Bay, like where you would have like some of that kind of like the creek that would go through it. You'd like have some of those bridges, and like underneath the bridges, you could kind of like go down there and hang out. Like there is or like the scene when they were like going through like the junkyard or whatever. And again, like the kid with the bunny ears like pretends to be like shot and whatnot. Is that like those scenes and stuff that the kids were doing? It's like or just like kind of like being on your bike and like randomly like going around town. Like but that's wasn't fundamentally different than like what I was doing.
Racine is just a notch or two up on the belt in terms of just overall prosperity. I mean, it's like it is. I think that's why we connect with it because Racine is like that town. It's not that bad, but it's bad, and it's a little bigger. But people were doing Gummo stuff. I mean,
I think that is kind of why the movie touched a nerve. Is that even if you lived in the suburbs and not a place as fucked up as that, that is what and like you're saying now, there is like a thing where if you're a guy like us, you're like, yeah, you just want to fucking ride your bike around and just kind of like see who's hanging out.
Get
Because
a
yeah,
small amount of money.
I will say, for me, I would never dishonor my mother's memory to say that our house was anything like the Gummo houses, but people I did drugs with and was in shitty metalcore bands with as a teenager, it could have been, they were Gummo places and Gummo people, and that is what you can go to Grand Isle, Vermont now and go to the trailer park and go to the places, and it is literally Gummo shit. So for me, it's kind of like, oh, wow. I remember as a teenager in Grand Isle, Vermont, being like, oh, well, I guess, like, it's not just here that people are this fucked up and just doing dumb shit all the fucking time. And
Everywhere.
rednecks just, burning out.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect sample of what a lot of us can relate to. What was I gonna say? Motherfucker. Oh, well, the soundtrack. I mean, it just happens to have the best soundtrack of any movie of all time. Like,
Okay.
it's just the best fucking soundtrack of all time.
And it's a good range. The metal is what you think of first, but it's not just the metal that's good. And it's crazy that he does Crying by Roy Orbison, but he beat David Lynch to it for Mulholland Drive. I forgot that that's such a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
There's another song like that too that I feel like was in some weird John Waters or David Lynch movie. The other one about everyday things are
Sure,
good.
but that was like a more of a radio hit than Crying.
Yeah, if I was taking notes, one thing I would have something about the movie that I thought was top of the line is like some of the band T-shirts and posters in the movies. I can't remember any of them specifically, but I was very
Costume designed by Chloe Savini.
Yeah, I noticed that. Really interesting. So
She's just cool. She was like, yeah, I know what's cool.
she just told them, "Oh, you should put Dio and
He
Crow."
was going to the thrift stores. She's someone like us who was just going to thrift stores and being like, yeah, this is fucking sweet. This is what people should be wearing.
I really liked the Chloe Savini trio of characters, those sisters who I thought that was just one of the better little vignettes, little plots, subplots, and of course the bowling alley molester, who when I saw that scene, I was like, this is the character in the movie who Adam would say I am most like.
No, honestly, if I was going to try to be funny, my favorite cameo one scene bit part is the cameo Harmony Korine gives himself. Do you know the role he plays in the movie? He's the really drunk guy that tries to get the midget black guy to make out with him, and the guy's like, "Oh man, oh man."
Yeah. No, that's a good scene. Well,
Yeah.
what's funny about that scene is that you know, the black guy is like, oh, by the way, I'm gay. And then Harmony Korine is like, cool, well, let's kiss. Like,
Like,
oh.
no, no.
That's so good. Yeah, that's great. I always in January, I'm going to a place that might be even like lower than Gummo. I'm going to Nebraska. And
Yeah.
I'm going into Nebraska in January. We're staying at an old YMCA. It's a men's retreat. And I'm told that 80% of the men who attend this retreat are like real fucking rural Nebraska people. And they have lots of the whole spirit of this is that you're supposed to like share deeply and intimately and like overcome personal boundaries and mental blocks. And anyway, my friend who's been going to this for like 20 years says, yeah, there's a lot of guys there who have had sex with animals. Like that's a common thing.
Sure.
So I'm very much looking forward to this Nebraska trip. That wasn't a thing in Gummo, like it could have been, but I also like that about the movie, like the emphasis on bored. Like this is what happens when you have just total boredom, like total dilapidation and
It
boredom.
is funny because people these days love to be like, everyone's just on their phone all the time. And I'm like, yeah, we should go back to the Gummo times. That's what we did before we had phones. Anyone that like I legitimately think that is better, but I think it is a funny joke to anyone to be like, can't kids just put their phones down? I'm like, yeah, check out Gummo. That's what they're going to do. You take their
They can
phone.
put their phones down and then they're gonna fuck each other and sniff glue. That's
They're going to
exactly,
paint.
yeah. My favorite personal Gummo story from me and Mike's Gummo days was Mike in the 7th grade. We didn't have phones. We had to figure out what Gummo stuff we were going to do. And it was a winter day, and you were going to come over on your bike. And I said, dude, please, I have $6. I need you to go to the Hardee's on 3.5 mile drive and pick up some food and bring it over. And you went on your bike and got the Hardee's, but it was so icy that you fell and spilled some of the fries from the Hardee's bag. This is 1997. And
The year it came out.
and when you arrived, you were like, I'm sorry, dude, I dropped the Hardee's. And I was kind of like in this place of like, I mean, I'm not mad, but I am disappointed because getting that Hardee's was the highlight of the day. And that's what makes it a Gummo thing. It's like we got together a small amount of money and we were going to have fast food. Mike is bringing it on his bike.
Yes, I do remember that. And first of all, it's not 3.5 mile drive; it's 3 mile road.
Ooh, busted.
But yes, well, the thing with the Hardee's though too is that I also would have had the enthusiasm for that particular Hardee's, which
Like you thought it was better than other Hardee's at that Hardee's?
With all there was.
Well, no, yeah, well, no, well, the Hardee's. Well, I liked Hardee's, and I'm going to say kind of getting into a bit of the geography of Racine, Wisconsin. When you think about it, like that's a very random place to have a fast food restaurant like that. It's like because I mean, you may have heard of the hoteling theory of real estate. No, but like there's like one random Hardee's in that neighborhood, and I would go there a lot when it was still a Hardee's. I mean, now it's something else, but I would go there a lot. So when you're like, hey, Mike, do you want to go to Hardee's? I don't remember specifically, but I'm sure I'm like, absolutely. I will ride my bike through the snow and ice to go to this
Right.
Hardee's. Now, I will say I don't remember if I fell off the bike or because I was on a bike and it was cold and it was a paper bag, if I just dropped it.
Right.
But I know the burgers were okay because they were wrapped. What I also could have done too with the fries is just like put them back in the thing, eaten them, and then, we
Right.
probably would have been okay.
But I mean, you get what I'm saying. It's like I wasn't mad
Yeah.
at you because I knew like you were the one who took one for the team and went through the snow to get the Hardee's. But it was also like, oh man, damn.
Yeah, no, I do know because like those were the times where you'd maybe get that Hardee's like once a week, and yeah, I know I feel that it's yeah, it's kind of yeah, no, I definitely.
Anyway, that was one of our many Gummo moments.
Yeah, I want to say that I love you guys. I respect you guys, but like it's very funny to me that your idea of your Gummo experience was one of you picked up fast food for the other. When I'm thinking about my Gummo experience, I'm thinking about like when we like did so much cough syrup we couldn't walk straight and we hung out in a junkyard, and then kids 2 years older than us also came to the same junkyard, and we didn't know if they were going to like steal our drugs and our money or not. And you're like, yeah, I know Gummo. One time we got Hardee's. We were kind of living a Gummo life.
Well, that's Mike and I were intellectuals though. We didn't use mind altering substances because we were transcendentalists and purists, and we were of nature, and we just.
I just want to make clear to listeners that I'm more Gummo than you guys.
You are. That's 100% true. That's why you get to be Gummo of the three of us. If we're on Mount Mike's Movie Podcast, you are there, and it's with a Gummo T-shirt and Mike.
And literally, sometimes we would be at someone's house that we didn't know that well, that we were there to buy drugs or do drugs with. And whenever you're doing something illicit with people like that, then also the porn comes out. And then I literally had the experience of in the movie where you're like, oh, cool, porn. And then you're like, whoa, hey, this is not the kind of porn that we're looking for. It's like, these are not the droids you're looking for, but like, this is not the porn you're looking for.
Yeah, but here's what I want to say. I don't think your experience that you just shared is any more or less Gummo than the one Mike and I just shared. I think that's what makes Gummo good, is that it does have this kind of like horrific, like just really gritty, disturbing violence Gummo stuff. But then there's also the more innocent Gummo stuff, like the Shane person. That's really mean to call it the Shane person. But
what are you talking about? Who's the Shane person?
The woman who shaves her eyebrows. Not every little visual in that movie is trying to like shock you. It's not
No,
all
I
drugs.
literally agree with you that I see it and I'm like, yeah, this is a very good time.
Yeah.
Besides killing cats, the killing cats,
Oh, I don't like that. And I don't understand that.
and I think that is, I think because he kind of knew, because he was that kind of guy, he was like, people are going to be having too much fun. He's
Right.
coming from like Larry Clark world. He's trying to make sure you feel kind of bad when you're engaging with his art.
Right. No,
Yeah.
it's true.
Oh, yeah, and the killing cats portion of that too. I guess I did. Well, the one part of it that I didn't fully understand is like when the kids were selling the cats. Why?
He says he sells it to a Chinese restaurant in the scene.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Because then he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm not selling so many because that Chinese place closed. They're literally implying that the Chinese place uses the cats to make the food.
What else could it be? Like, what else would you use dead cats for?
Yeah,
That's what Mike was saying.
Meat.
yeah, I was yeah, and then so yes, but basically then you have like the kids who are just like also just like with the killing cats due to the boredom of that, and yeah, but yeah, that was they really did spend a substantial part of it because I knew going into the movie that there was a cat drowning scene, and I just had the assumption that there was like a one-off cat drowning scene that occurred.
It's a motif.
They went through a lot a lot in that. So yeah.
And it's kind of the end. I think the last thing is
Yeah.
him holding the cat up.
Yeah, which I believe that was like the cat that was an actual pet they got. Yeah,
That
so
they
that
didn't
was,
kill at the start.
The scene,
Spoilers. Cat death spoilers for Gummo.
another scene that is close to my heart, and I don't really know why, and it's probably TMI, but when the bunny kid is in the pool with the two older girls, and
Oh yeah, that is. I was like, God, that would be the highlight of my life. Being in the pool with Chloe Savini in the rain, listening to Roy Orbison.
yeah, well, but it was very real. Like, I mean, I haven't been in that exact situation, but I know exactly what is going on in that scene. I can't quite describe it, but I know exactly what is going on. It's some kind of mix of like boredom and puberty and sexual exploration and age differential. I just can't, we had these babysitters. Nick and I had these two babysitters once. He's two, he won't remember, but they were both older and like, hot. And I was too young to be interested. But that was like, there was something with them that something similar happened playing a game. And it was just that scene brought me back to that feeling of being like an 8-year-old fucking boy waking up to that shit in those weird little moments of nothingness, of just complete wasted time. That's the thing that I romanticize most about Gummo is like, God, there's something very human and very like pure about just doing dog shit all day long. Like you have a whole day where it's like, I don't have any plans, I got nothing to do. We're just gonna have to figure it out. I don't know. It's gonna be sniffing glue, milkshakes, touching a boob, whatever it is, but we got the whole day in front of us. That is so far from what my life is now, where every fucking minute or second is grid lined out. And it's like, am I
Blink 182 said, I guess this is growing up.
fucking A? I know, Mike, I know you can. We've been talking about this a lot, where it's just like, I would rather be poor. I want to go live in West Virginia and just do nothing. Can we just do that?
I mean, if I didn't have this today would be like that for me. Yesterday was like that for me. If you don't do holiday bullshit, the holidays are always like that for you.
I did take some time off for the holidays and did some more bullshit than I would normally do, but
Yeah, no, I think it is a very evocative movie, and I think that's why it resonated with people because it's evocative of childhood experiences that are not commonly portrayed or at all, if not like so accurately, for sure.
yeah, and
We all lost our virginity to a girl with Down syndrome that was like being pimped by her brother, stepfather, whoever that fucking. That's like, honestly, the pedophile is way less of an insane character than the guy pimping out the Down syndrome girl who's like jacking off at the top of the door. That part I vividly remembered from 20 years ago.
That's real shit. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't have any experience with that. But you know,
but it's what you're talking about where you're like, oh, that could be such a nasty scene. But then it shows the younger kid with her, and it is kind of like weirdly sweet and like sentimental.
Mm-hmm. Nope, it's not, it's not. I didn't know what, like, I knew the movie, I knew the general kind of premise of the movie was that this was gonna be exploring some fucked up element of decay in American society. But I didn't know what tack it was going to take, right? So like one movie I kept thinking a lot about during this one was something like Roger and Me, which is a pure documentary that has a political purpose of pointing out these are the people you left behind. I don't think that's what Gummo's trying to do at all. I think Gummo's just trying to say like, well, I don't know, but it's like this is just humanity. It's all of us. It's
I really believe that Harmony Korine is a Gummo kind of guy, and that like even though some of it's fucked up, that I think he is for sure romanticizing it, which is what like no one does, and not like endorsing it, but like you being like kind of like yeah remember that when that because even back in '97 it was probably like remember when life was simpler in Gummo world.
quick practical question. Here's the thing. So first of all, who's Gummo? Is Gummo the kid? What the hell is Gummo?
I don't think so. I think it's just a funny. Mike said the same thing. Mike was like, I thought the guy in the poster was Gummo was going to be the story of Gummo.
Exactly.
I'm going to check the credits. I don't think there is a character named Gummo. I think
so you don't know. The other thing is, I don't quite. So the initial premise is that this is what's left behind after the tornadoes. But the tornado happened in the 70s.
I don't. I think the tornado stuff is just to have some of that tornado footage. Like I don't really think it's because like no one's really talking about or like there's not really any acknowledgement in the main part of the movie about it. There's just like some narration at the start and the end. I'm looking at the credits. No one is named Gummo. If you look up Gummo on Wikipedia, I am absolutely certain that the second result, Gummo Marx, is what he's going for because I know Harmony Korine is obsessed with old timey vaudeville Marx Brothers shit. So I'm assuming, without reading any confirmation, that that's why it's called Gummo.
Gummo is one of the Marx brothers.
I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be back.
He must, yeah. It's not one I've ever heard of. Is it not Marx Brothers guy? He was the second youngest of the five Marx brothers, replaced by his brother Zeppo. Because yeah, I know that Tumblr, which is one of the guys' names in the movie, I think that is the Gummo kid, the kid on the poster. Or no, it's the older kid. I think the older kid that the Gummo kid hangs out with is called the Tumblr, and that is some kind of a like vaudeville term. That's just like a term for like someone that would like get you to come into the vaudeville theater and like tell one-liners outside or something. So like that's confirming my suspicion that it's Gummo Marx is why it's called Gummo.
Okay. All right. Well, those are my two stupid, dumbass questions about the movie. Another movie that I thought of while I was watching it was Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
Sure, and yes. And here's something that I want to say a lot about that. So exactly what we're talking about. I think Gummo is doing a miraculous thing where it is kind of celebrating, but also being like, it's kind of fucked up, but we had some good times or whatever. Yeah. In a way that is why it's so relatable and resonates with people. Whereas like, as funny as Heavy Metal Parking Lot is, to me, that is not patient zero, but that's like an early progenitor of what I feel like I bring up all the time, which is like a thing where, like in terms of documentary stuff, Werner Herzog is a guy that does a lot of like Gummo. He like is like Harmony Korine, where he empathizes and appreciates, and like he's always like on the level of the weird fucked up people he's studying. Whereas Heavy Metal Parking Lot is like, can you believe these fucking idiots? And I feel like culture now normatively is Heavy Metal Parking Lot, where it's like, yeah, you find some weird guy and you make fun of him. Whereas Harmony Korine, Werner Herzog, they were like, hey, I relate to this, and like I'm sure we can all find something in this in our own lives. And I feel like we need more Gummo, less Heavy Metal Parking Lot. And I feel like most documentary stuff about anything weird or fucked up is now Heavy Metal Parking Lot. No one is doing Herzog Gummo anymore.
Agree. From what little I've seen. And I just, yeah, I mean, I very much appreciated that this wasn't some sort of stupid Michael Moore bullshit about.
And I mean, Michael Moore that's a different thing. He's not making, he's doing the opposite where he's like, you should be fucking crying. This is disgusting. He's
Right.
being like, this is the problem. Whereas Harmony Korine is being like, well, it's fucked up, but whatever.
It's fucked up in its own way. I mean, like it's uniquely American. That's another piece of it, right? Like this is American shit. There's the version of Gummo in Europe or India is totally different. The interaction.
I do think that former Soviet Union countries have their own version of Gummo.
Definitely. But that's probably the closest thing to it. But like this thing with the beers and the breaking stuff and with the metal and all that. No, it was just the bowling alley, the corn dogs. Fucking, it's beautiful. 4th of July, baby. I'm watching Gummo again.
Yeah, you should make the guys watching in Nebraska be like, you guys remember this?
But I think Nebraska is going to be a different kind of Gummo. That's farm Gummo. That's like horse barn Gummo. That's Mr. Hands Gummo.
That's Washington.
Did you say that's what you rented?
Oh, that's Washington. Washington State is where Mr. Hands is.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, the guy worked at Boeing. We should do that movie. We should do Zoo.
No, let's just do the actual footage of him getting fucked by the horse without the documentary wrap.
Not interesting. That's
Why is the documentary interesting if that's not interesting?
because there's no dimensionality to the horse fuck. It's just one thing. It's just okay. It's a shock.
I think it's people.
I'm too old.
Who even wants to be shocked? I think being shocked. There was the annoying guy I used to always bring up with, who thank God I don't work with anymore. Knowing a guy like that who lives to find things that are shocking, I was like, this is so tedious. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. Go die.
Yeah,
I feel like we've done that full circle so many times.
Yeah, I feel like what we learned from Powder is that people don't always like being shocked.
Fucking A, man. Mike slam dunks it. Mike
He
hits
did it again, ladies and gentlemen. Well, and then left. Mike,
All right, so yeah, nothing there while Evan is gone. So we can see here too by looking at the angle of the sunlight there.
Yeah, zoom in enhance. He is in Xenia, Ohio right now. I know that pattern.
Yeah, you can see. It looks like there's a little bit of wind outside, which is causing the leaves to blow
So
on the tree. I can feel the. You're talking about getting some like American Beauty stuff.
Yeah.
In there. I know.
So I'll ask the same thing to him when he gets back. Now that you've seen Gummo, are you personally interested, and do you think you'll seek out more Harmony Korine movies now that you've had the Gummo experience?
No, I do, and I think probably the next one on the list, because it's so firmly in my consciousness, would be Spring Breakers.
Sure.
So, but yes,
That's
I am
probably the most different one.
Yes, but I am interested in more Harmony Korine movies now that I saw that now saw Gummo. See what else he has. See what else he has in store.
The closest to Gummo, which is the one he did after Gummo, is Julian Donkey Boy, which in my opinion is kind of his best movie. But that's also, it's kind of like one family, not like the whole town, but it's the most similar to Gummo. But it kind of like, it's more like, you can tell it's more like personal. Like you can tell some of the specific family stuff. It's just less of like a broad ensemble vibes thing. But that's my favorite. It's also unstreamable and a pain in the ass to find. But I asked Mike if he thinks he's going to watch any other Harmony Korine movies, and then specifically said that Julian Donkey Boy is the closest to Gummo, the one he did right after Gummo, and probably my favorite of any movie he ever did.
The guy I mentioned who spoke at the AA meeting last night is a friend of mine, who's from Ohio. I spoke to him again this morning and told him about my Gummo experience. Like, oh yeah, I have that on VHS. I would have lent it to you, but you probably don't have a VCR. So,
Wow. How good of a friend is this guy that he doesn't know you have a VCR?
well, fair question. He doesn't know everything about. I mean, like most people don't know.
Does he watch the podcast?
No,
You should make business cards for the podcast that you hand out at these men's club retreats you go through or whatever. That's our demographic.
I should give him the podcast. My dad asked for it.
We'll make a highlight reel. We'll make a sizzle reel.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not reluctant. I guess I am. No, I'll share it.
Yeah, the next time you bring it up and someone's like, well, what do you think about it? Be like, well, here's a 3-hour podcast where you hear about powder and red one and come over.
Every time it comes out in conversation, people are like, oh, I really want to hear it. And I'm just sort of like, no, you don't. You know, like, I mean, maybe you're one of the 5 weirdos in the world who can appreciate this, but it's pretty much.
Someday we'll be properly regarded.
Right.
Someday our song will be sung from the towers.
The 2 towers. So what's the next?
Well,
Hours.
I feel like we've. I feel like it's kind of getting time to get to the burger ranking and kind of wrap things up here. I'm gonna go.
I love these multi-movie episode because like it makes the rating so much funnier when especially when it's with these movies that's different.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. So I'm gonna go with bottom to top here. So I'm gonna give red one. I'm gonna give that 2 cheeseburgers. Is my quantitative ranking for red one. I'm gonna give powder 3 cheeseburgers. I wouldn't really necessarily recommend powder to anybody, but I had fun watching the movie. And then Gummo, I got to give that one 4. So
Now here's what I want to know: would you recommend Gummo to like people you work with?
the people that I work with, I would not like it. There would have to be a lot of context that would be existing, and like I would have to know that they would be like able to tolerate some facets of the movie. And I would say like would I recommend it to somebody that I work with? Like extremely unlikely that I would, because like the certain like certain scenes and certain element of the movies, I'd have to know they would be like comfortable or okay with those. And like
You have to give some trigger warning.
yeah, right. And like those types of like trigger warnings are just not going to come up in the context of like kind of a regular work conversation. So in other words, I would say if somebody like if I was having a conversation with somebody like of a work colleague outside of a work context, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I watched this really weird movie the other day called Gummo," then I might like discuss it. Or if they were like, "Hey, I watched this movie called Kids. Hey, have you ever seen anything else from that person that you'd recommend?" Maybe in that particular case, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, same thing. I'll say like too, like even a movie like The Substance is not something that I would like be talking about at work in a work context, even though that's a lot more mainstream. So, but yeah, that's a very long answer to your question.
Just I only asked because you said and I understand that you wouldn't recommend powder to people. I'm
Well,
crazy. I recommend shit like powder to people. They never watch it, but like I'll just throw out shit like that. I told someone to watch Vibrations, the movie where Christina Applegate is dating the guy with no hands who's a DJ. For no reason.
Well,
and I know they're never going to watch it, but you know, maybe they will, and that'll be magic, and they'll turn their life around.
Well, I'll say too, like with in terms of like movie recommendations in general, like just something I would. Geez, I think like the only recommendations I would have would be like kind of like more like pure like PG movies because
because you work with children.
Yeah, well, not that, but like I mean, you never. There are like some movies that might have like some language or like some scenes where you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, and I don't want to. So, but yeah, that is. But yeah, Gummo, red, yeah. So anyway, I've kind of lost the plot there. But anyway,
you don't always want everybody to know everything about you. That's the thing. I mean, it's like I carefully craft and manipulate the section of myself that I will present to coworkers. And that's strategic. It's 100% strategic. And it's like, I try not to be dishonest, but like, I don't want you to know about how I feel about Gummo. And similarly, I don't.
Gummo's relationship is private. It's between me and Gummo.
Well, unfortunately, most people are pretty underexposed. Like they would, let's be honest here. 70, 80%, maybe 90% of the people I interact with on a daily basis at work or even elsewhere, whatever other communities I'm in, would categorize most of the stuff we're talking about. They would just relegate that to weird stuff. That's weird stuff. And I understand why they have that categorization, but like that's why I don't want to talk to them about Harmony Korine or whatever.
My logic is you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, and I don't disagree at all. But I'm always like, but who knows? Maybe there's one person that would be into it, and they're never going to know about it if you don't throw it out there. That's why I'm always throwing it.
Totally. That's my friend, my Ohio friend is one of those people. Like I can talk to him about Gummo, and I knew that about him already. But like I said, it's like 1 in 10.
But the thing, my point is, you don't know which 1 in 10. You never can tell. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's you never can tell who's going to be into that kind of stuff.
I remember when I sat down and watched the movie Machinist with my girlfriend at the time, and she sat through the whole thing. At the end, she was just like, she said, "Kind of dark, baby," and I knew, like, what the.
I'm trying to do the math in my head and figure out which girl. This is a girlfriend I met?
We don't need to discuss who the. It doesn't matter.
But I just want to visualize who said that to you after the machinist.
I don't know that you ever met this one. Maybe you did. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's nobody you know well.
I know. I just wanted to imagine the face saying kind of dark baby to you.
Who says
Yeah, you kind of twisted stuff like the machinist.
that? Yeah.
I'm kind of fucked up.
No, but it's not twisted.
I like shit like the machinist.
Yeah.
What if a man was anorexic? Can you fucking imagine?
Yeah.
Because he's just
hardcore
haunted by
music, like
past
every
guilt.
All Man 5000.
I didn't hear what you said. What was yours?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. He was haunted by the guilt. You know, he's carrying a dark cloud of guilt over his shoulder. And
Can you imagine Jennifer Jason Leigh being your girlfriend and you're still that much of a bitch about everything in your life? You should be so fucking lucky.
I always forget that she's in that.
She's the biggest. She's the peak Mount Rushmore of the pantheon of Adam's sirens. That Kiernan Shipka has just graciously joined him.
She's a veteran. Oh, quick question about Red One. Speaking of old women, is that Sally Field in the movie? Is she the Miss Claus?
It's some other fucking like. It's. I know who you're talking
Is
about.
that Bonnie Hunt?
Yes, it's Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah.
It's Bonnie Hunt.
What's she in? What I know Bonnie Hunt from?
Fuck.
I feel like I remember her from some TV sitcom.
I am completely failing. I'm sure Nick Johnson's gnashing his teeth and knows exactly what she's in. I'm completely failing. I'm refusing to look at my phone. I feel like she was the mom in.
Beethoven.
Oh, you know what?
There we go.
What did you say?
Beethoven.
I was also going to say, wasn't she also in Cheaper by the Dozen?
Yes.
Could be.
Yeah.
Jumanji,
Classic
Beethoven.
90s mom. See, that's what I'm saying. Jake Kasdan is aware of the oeuvre, and that's why he's very deliberately select. That was good cast. The good casting in that movie is Bonnie Hunt and Kiernan Shipka. The old and the new. The bad casting was the leads. He fucked up on that, but whatever.
Red One. Whoops.
That's right.
It's so stupid. What a stupid.
Oh, I hate stupid movies. I only want to watch like Tarkovsky and Bergman.
Yeah. Was there a title line in Red One?
Yeah, I mean they call him Red One on the radio all the time.
Okay, I see. This is like kind of the state of my brain.
Yeah, because Powder. Obviously, they say Powder a bunch. They never say Gummo. Gummo. That's how you know Gummo is an avant-garde film. There's no title.
Yeah,
line in
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
When the Upright Citizens Brigade upgrades their when they do that sketch.
Well, I don't know a lot of Gummo.
Yeah.
I was like, what's with all this Gummo?
Yeah.
Where's Gummo?
Yeah.
Which one of you is Gummo? That's the title line.
I'm getting
So,
lost.
okay, so on to what to do next. I think it seems like there is a lot of phenomenon coming up. I think we should absolutely do phenomenon. And I don't really have a pitch, but I kind of like doing more than one movie that's completely unrelated. So I think we should also pick some other not at all like phenomenon movie to do with phenomenon that I don't have a pick for. But I think phenomenon kind of is inevitable after it coming up with all three of us with Powder, because I still like the pre-existing, forgotten, big deal at the time '90s studio movies thing, which Phenomenon absolutely is a part of.
Yeah, Phenomenon box office stuff made like $150 million. Big,
Nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
could change the world.
Oh geez. Oh geez. Well,
And I will say, like I already said, I've been repetitively watching Oliver Stone's JFK. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
I've seen it. It's been a while. I mean,
I fucking love that movie. I'm gonna be. It's like I just like that's such a fun movie. I highly recommend falling asleep watching it. It's way too long to. It's not because like I love a good long movie and I could watch that movie straight through, but because it's so manic and busy and full of too many characters and flashbacks showing different things happening. It's a great movie to fall asleep and not remember where you were at and then get confused when you try and find your place in it.
did
Great Southern accent fest Hall of Fame movie, JFK.
you see Oppenheimer?
Sure.
Um,
Ain't no JFK. It wishes it would. It doesn't even know that it should wish it's JFK.
well, for the record, I give Red one red cheeseburger, and I
Is that
think
right? Because it's spicy.
one cheeseburger ketchup only, because that's what kind of movie it is. It's one of these boring, fucking stupid little kid cheeseburgers. I like sophisticated movies, stuff that's cool.
you like
Stuff
art.
depth to it, intellectual, like Powder. See, a Powder is a movie that makes you think.
Yeah, it's funny, but it makes you think.
Funny. It is funny, and it hits at the heart. And
Okay, we're just getting to Sergeant Bilko. The person who says like it's funny, but it makes you think. Is that David Krumholtz?
I have no idea what you're
We're
talking
getting
about.
like was
I
it
don't remember. I don't know if I've ever seen Sergeant Bilko.
okay?
No, we got another movie to do. Okay,
But that's too close to Phenomenon.
right. Okay, so we're gonna do Phenomenon and then something in the theater.
Okay. I mean, the new Luca Guadagnino, Daniel Craig, William S. Burroughs queer movie that's coming out in a couple weeks. I'm ramped up for that gay shit. It's funny because I don't know. Have you ever read any Burroughs novels? My memory is that he did a funny thing where there's junkie and queer, and that like seemingly on purpose, queer is way more about doing heroin, and junkie is way more about like having sex with gay prostitutes. So I'm kind of like queer. The movie wants you to think it's the gay one, but if I remember the book, that's the one more about heroin. But it's been a long time since I read either of them.
Couldn't tell you. I only read Goosebumps.
Well, it is kind of Goosebumps are a stepping stone to Naked Lunch. Naked Lunch is kind of Goosebumps for adults. Naked Lunch is Gummo Goosebumps.
Gummo bumps. Getting better than that. All right, should I shut this thing down?
No, what do you have? Do you have a rating for?
Mike's looking at pictures of David.
David Krumholtz, not in Sergeant Bilko. So do you have a rating to share for Gummo and?
This is where Adam makes a valid point that this is where
Wow. How many years did it take for this to be the consensus?
the cheeseburger rating system does come up short in these types of situations because this is not an apples to apples type of deal. So, however, I will say you gave Powder 3 cheeseburgers. I think that's fair, all things considered. And I think if 4 is the Gummo is a blue ribbon, perfect. Perfect cheeseburger. Meaning if it's a perfect cheeseburger for me, it's gonna have grilled onions and no mayonnaise and a nice pretzel bun.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, I guess that concludes our second straight triple feature podcast.
We're on fire.
And
Mike's Food Passes is peak optimization.
And next week we're doing Transformers. Adam insisted that we do the new Transformers movie, so we're gonna humor him.
I mean, I do love the Transformers movies. I haven't seen the new one, but I like the Michael Bay ones and the anime 80s one.
We're gonna do Wicked. I'm
Whoa,
done.
we have to have Nick on for that. He's the only one who's seen it on the stage.
I don't know anything about Wicked except that it's the Wizard of Oz, and I kind of want to keep it that way.
I do know, I mean,
Jeff Goldblum, powder follow-up. Want to see what kind of powder energy he's bringing to that. Does he touch any kids and have good sex in Wicked? There is a younger character with a one not normal color skin in the movie.
The
He was like, Jeff Goldblum's like, that's what my boy wants. I get a green black girl. I can't imagine the guy who's like,
Of course, it all makes so much sense. The electricity is coming out of my sexuality, and you are mirroring what I'm giving to you, and we are harmonizing.
I mean, I want to say this is serious, sincere feedback. Your Jeff Goldblum impression has improved.
Yeah, no, that was
progressively.
actually good.
Over the course of the
so off at the start, but that specifically the emphasis on you.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're able to improve upon that very quickly there. So
It's not where you started, it's where you end on the journey, you know.
yeah. Well, like Michael Jordan, he said, 2,000 times I was trusted with the final shot of the game, and I missed 1,000 of those, and that's what made me great. That wasn't the exact numbers, but
I think if Gummo hadn't been zapped and stayed in high school, there would have been an Air Bud. He plays basketball and zaps the ball, and then at the end, Michael Jordan's like, "You play good, kid."
Are you talking about powder?
Yeah, but it would have been like the Air movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, where like Michael Jordan is like
made money off this kid.
Well, no, there's a presence of Michael Jordan, but like these never definitively in the movie. But if you saw Air, then you know what we're talking about.
I didn't.
All right. Well, I guess Evan, do you want to do the honors of stopping the recording?
I thought you'd never ask. Well, the problem with this, it's not always clear to me how I'm supposed to stop the
I
recording.
never understand how this is so hard.
It's always so hard. Wait, I'm gonna get it.
It happens to a lot of guys. A lot of guys have trouble bringing their podcast to completion.
I practice. No, you have to. So listen. Okay. So I'm gonna go to apps.
Mm-hmm. It's
Okay.
good. Go behind the scenes.
All right. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Okay. Why isn't it working? Come on, man.
This is going to be the super cut. When we make the sizzle reel to send random people you work with the podcast, it's going to be all you going, come on, what? No? Did it work? Fuck. Let me see.
It's going to be like 2 hours long.
Got it.
It has not said anything.